on this computer. Great. Hi. Hi, Donna. First, to all the individuals who are watching, I am so thrilled to introduce you to my friend and I don't know, maybe spiritual soul sister in some ways, Donna Otmani. And I asked Donna to talk to me today because she's a coach, mentor, and a facilitator. And she calls herself also a recovering Wonder Woman, which I'm curious about. And she's somebody who has a master's degree in spiritual psychology. And her work is soul-based, which is really the biggest reason I wanted you to come and speak with me today so we can share this type of work in the world.
Absolutely. Yes.
Awesome. So just say, whatever I missed that you want to say to like introduce yourself even better and then just jump in and tell us like, what's the work that you do?
Okay. Love it. So, for me, I came about spiritual psychology. So I am a soul-centered coach, like you just shared. And what that really means, because I know sometimes when people hear like soul anything, it sounds a little woo-woo, it sounds a little ungrounded. And I always like to tell people, first and foremost, I'm the most practical based person that you could possibly know. I'm someone that's very operationally driven, who loves systems, who loves to organize things, to create like grace in life. I think that organizing, it's one of the things I love about the clean slate is like, and the program is like, you were really clear. It's like, let's do things that create more space and more ease in our life.
Yes.
And so for me, I feel like I spent a lifetime mastering how to make outer world more calm so that I could feel better. I would do that with organizations. Like I was in retail. I was really good at like setting up systems. I found that I would do that in my life. I'd tell people what people I was in relationships with, here's how this could go better if we just think this way, or if we try this. And, that got me so far. But when I kept finding myself hitting the same walls over and over again, despite conversations, despite, how many more times do I need to tell you what I need or whatever, I felt like I was so at a loss for like, how do I have what I want? How do I have a sense of peace or a deeper connection with someone or an experience of grace in the world if I've tried systems and conversations and whatnot, and it's not working? So I found that, I found this work, I found spiritual psychology through my sister. My sister and my brother-in-law both went through the program. They live out in LA, and they both took the program. It's out at the University of Santa Monica. And my sister kept saying to me, you would totally like love this. And I was like, yeah, but I live in New York City. She's like, no, it's designed for people to live there. And it was like, or to fly back and forth for the work. And I was like, sure, I'll just fly back and forth from New York City once a month for 2 years. That sounds logical. And that whole thing was like my first awareness of like, again, it was like all limitation. Like I couldn't even see how it would be possible. So, but I watched how my sister, who used to be angry all the time, had a lot of anxiety. She suffered from like obsessive compulsive disorder, panic attacks. I saw her start to calm down and start to like be pleasant to be around and to be in her heart and be loving versus like critical or judgmental or frustrated or whatever our relationship was up until that point. So she invited me. So I was curious. And I was like, well, yeah, I'm not going to, even though people were flying back and forth for this, I was like, well, let me just check it out. So went to her graduation, and like they had all these different activities that weekend. And I started talking to more and more people who were taking this program, and they were experiencing similar shifts to what I was seeing in my sister. And I was like, I found myself crying the whole weekend. I was like, why am I crying? And I was like, because it was touching something in me that I didn't even really know was possible. It was like this sense of like, oh, I feel peace in my life, or I feel like it was the peace that I saw in them, the peace and the happiness and the relaxation around life that I was like not experiencing. I was newly married. He was my first serious relationship. I was triggered all the time. All the time, as you and I have talked about with relationships. Yeah. And I was also working 24/7 and like in retail, and I loved my job, but at the same time, it was like I wasn't getting the results or the accolades or the, things that I wanted. And I was just feeling like so limited by life. So when I went to her graduation, I just, like, the way I was reacting to everything, I was like, I got to figure out a way to do this. And so I just decided, and it ended up actually being, I decided September, at the end of August 2001, and September 11th happened. And I was like, am I actually going to get on a plane once a month from New York City to fly to California? But because of then, again, what I saw going on in the world and all the trauma from 9/11 and whatnot, I was like, I felt even more strongly called to go and learn this work. So that's where it all started. Was like, I just was really unhappy. Like, so choose happiness was like, such a perfect shirt to be wearing today, because I didn't know I could choose happiness. Did you? Did you know that was a choice?
Well,
back when you were younger?
My journey was slightly different. Like I had this, it's interesting because it took many, many years. I guess it took me being in my late 30s and 40s that I reflected back on my childhood and could see these moments of grace. They were there all along.
Yeah.
But my focus was on what I didn't have, what didn't work, and what I still needed to improve upon, rather than seeing that there was something that was there all along, that was intact, that was all-knowing, and an access to wisdom that was beyond, my age or education or maturity level or anything like that. But thanks for asking that. You said so many, there were so many gold nuggets in actually what you said. And what I especially am drawn to inside of what you're sharing is this aspect of soul-centered and soul-centered work, but bringing it and like being practical about it, right? And one of the interviews, done for Clean Slate was actually with my wisdom teacher, who I did the deconstruction of ego with, and got certified to do that work. And, and so we open up this conversation, and that's done one way. What I'm really curious about is to hear more about that. How do you bring that work that people don't really talk about? It's not like we learn about soul in schools, not at least we weren't when I was growing up, and I don't hear my son talk about soul except with me. So how do you, tell me more about that, about like, how do you bring that work into the practical life of a person, your client, or just your audience in general?
Yeah. Well, we start from the premise, like, a lot of times people will come to me and they're like, they want to feel relief from, I don't know, I want to feel relief from the frustration I feel over being in a job that I don't love anymore. I want to feel relief from the critical thinking that I have, that I'm down on myself for these perceived failures that I've had in the past. I want to feel relief. It's like all this, like, I want relief from something. And they think it's going to come through changing outer world. Like I was talking about, it's like, oh, if I change my job, or if I change, and that may be true. Sometimes we do need to change our outer circumstances. So for me, I talk about that we have to start relating to our lives, not from the ego's part of life. And you and I talked about this the other day, but like ego being like our mind-based, our logic and reason. And that is a great part of us. This part of us is a great aspect to have. It's designed to, it's designed to do what it's supposed to do.
To survive.
To survive. And it's designed to, like, logic and reason are freaking awesome. I'm like big on logic and reason when it serves what our authentic truth is. So what you were talking about, like when looking back on grace in your life, it's like I tell my clients, it's like, we've got to start looking at what are, from a soul-centered perspective, meaning instead of being a person with a soul, like, I believe it's like we're divine beings having a human experience. And if we can use anything that's happening in our lives, anything that's coming into our daily experience as something to learn and grow from, then we can continue. Like, it's like we kind of clear away. I consider it like a clearing away of debris, like what inside, what brush or brambles or, you know, sticks and mud and all that stuff is in the way of your authentic nature, which I had no clue that this is how it was. Like, once I learned this, I was like, oh, like, these things that are happening to me aren't a problem. They're not a something I have to fight against. They're not even things that I have to, like, they're here for me to work with. And so in terms of practicality, I think that's so practical. If I can just use what's happening towards me to see, oh, that's happening because that's the way I'm thinking about it. That's happening to me because there's a part of me that's scared. And if I just work with her, then I'm not going to keep feeling that way anymore. How much more practical could that be? Like, it's like those of us that want to do something, I'm not just sitting here and, I mean, prayer works. I'm a big believer in prayer, but it's not a passive way of doing life. If anything, it's empowering because you're not, I think for me, when I was growing up, this whole conversation about God or the divine or this grace and wisdom you were talking about, I mean, I was raised that God was this white dude in the sky that was like basically judging me for everything that I did. And if I wanted anything good to happen to me, I better behave and I better follow all the rules. And if I don't, I'm not only screwed in this lifetime, I am damned for eternity. Yeah. And pretty much that is not a very relaxing way to go through life.
Yeah.
Like,
no.
So, right. It's like, I don't have a chance here, or I do have a chance if I'm really good. But in that perspective, I'm on edge all the time. I'm like looking at, if things aren't going my way, I would think God didn't love me. I wasn't favored. Life doesn't want me good for me. I didn't earn it yet. I'm not worthy of it. Like, that whole realm is very like restricting and very disempowering. And so as I started to like, in soul-centered, in spiritual psychology, one of the basic premises is that, you know, that the divine is love and life wants good for you. And our authentic nature is loving, is happiness, is joy, is abundance, and all of those things. So what I learned in spiritual psychology is how to work with people and how to teach them to work with themselves so that they have greater access to all that is already within them, which I think is why our work is so similar, because it's like, we got to get that crap, stop believing our ego as truth, right? Yeah. The stories we tell ourselves, the beliefs we have. And so, it's like, I help people in the coaching container. It's like, we're not going to work on practicality right now, or we're going to do it in tandem with this belief system, with these tools, with these premises, so that they can start hearing themselves and living more in alignment. So, I don't know if that totally answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, it's really beautiful. I mean, you went many places with that, but you know, I think it does come back to this premise of, you know, even clean slate, which I really think clean slate principle is basic in life. You can't create anything on top of something else. Same way, you know, if you want to bring new furniture into your house, there's something that's got to go first.
Right.
If you want to have a new belief system, you got to look at what belief system you already have, let that go, so that something new can come in. So it's this clearing. And, you know, one of the things you mentioned something that intrigued me and reminded me of one of my favorite tools that I actually learned from you a while back, but you reminded me of it yesterday. And that is this like very, very practical and helpful tool to reset. And I really like it, just because, you know, I mean, we're both all about value for people. Yeah. And so I want to like really just give, you know, especially people in the clean slate group, something really practical that they can use like right now, put in the calendar right now. It won't cost them anything.
Yes.
That can really alter their life. So would you be willing to share that tool?
when you say reset, tell me a little bit more about which one you're thinking about.
I'm thinking about how you, instead of praying, which as you
Yeah.
mentioned, it's like a really passive way of communicating to God.
Yeah.
You have something very practical that I think when used, and I'll say what I'm left with, and then you can share the tool in all its glory. But what I'm left with that tool, and I'll let you discover what it is that it allows me to start my day reset, like in alignment with something than what's already there, or the default automatic system that would kick in probably minutes later, the moment we get on Instagram or Facebook or social media or see the news.
Yes.
So you know what I'm talking about now?
Yeah. For me, I found that I needed to develop a really practical conversation with God. Like I grew up with a God that lived out there, that was better than me, that was judging me and all of that. So part of what I had to reset and redo inside of me was this like that God is this loving force. And if God bugs you, for anyone that's listening, if the word God bugs you, life, universe, the divine, spirit, could be whatever word you want to use, but this life force energy that flows through all of this. I have a very practical relationship with him. It's like I'm talking to Marija right now. I would be like, if there's something I'm struggling with, like even the other day, something was going on with my business and I was like, all right, God, listen. Like literally like, listen, I don't know what else to do. Like I've tried this, and this. That's not working. I know you want good for me. So show me what to do. Like I'm here, I'm listening, I'm attuning. I'm like someone that loves signs. I don't know. Are you a sign person? Like, do you like signs? So it's like, I'm like, send me a sign or tell me, like, sometimes I'll even say, tell me what to do. And sometimes I say it out loud. There's been times where I do journaling and I'll put my name, Donna. God, I don't understand. Tell me what you want me to do. And then I'll write God. And then God will respond to me. It'll be like, look, you don't need to do anything. Just keep being patient. Things are on their way. Or actually reach out to so-and-so. Like I've gotten clear direction at times like that. Or just share a message on Facebook today. Or like, it's very practical. And like, it's this part of us that's just connected to all that is. We all have our own inner wisdom. And we don't need a building, you don't need anything to have that kind of relationship. It's just, you can just start. I just encourage you to like talk as if you're talking to a friend, because that's what the relationship is about, is a co-creation, a connecting. And you don't have to be like, there's no special words. It's just, it's a relationship like anything else. So
yes,
you can go talk to the divine right now.
Yeah. And what I loved about what you said as well is that you actually have like scheduled times when you do this.
Yeah.
Which is really, that's to me, that's like a really like a powerful way to reset what's predictable, what would happen on by default, and to just kind of have to bring that experience we have, that connection to the divine, to bring it into the practical everyday. Here it is, Monday morning at 9:00. I have my conversation with God. You sit, whether it's with your journal or in front of the mirror or just in nature, and you do your conversation.
I mean, sometimes I just walk around my apartment, and sometimes I don't even schedule it. But there have been times if I'm in a really particular spot, like let's say when I was first growing my practice, I would set up regular business meetings. And I even have a folder in my desktop that said business meetings with the divine. And it was just like, I would share if I was scared. I would share I would share my gratitudes, because, it's like not just with I think it's Tosha Silver who's like, the divine's not some big ATM in the sky that just like, like you just keep asking, or it's not like Amazon, you just keep asking everything for. It's also giving gratitude, being like recognizing, what is working in my life? What is going well? Thank you for that. And, I'm really struggling here. I'm just honest about it. It's like, I don't need to hide what's inside of me anymore, because the big guy upstairs, if that's a big guy or woman or whoever it is not judging me. It's like, it's just a relationship like anything else. So yeah, that's
really, really
super helpful. Yeah.
That's really, really beautiful. Awesome. So I'm going to put under this video and in a post itself, I'm going to put your website and where people can find you and a little bit of your bio. But is there anything else that you really just are really wanting to share that I want to just give you a chance to say it? And
yeah, absolutely. I'd say two things. If you are someone, I know for me, if I was listening back at a time where I had a complicated relationship with God, one really cool book, very fun, very practical book that I've been into lately is this book called E Squared by Pam Grout. And she has these 9 exercises that you can do to start to see proof of like that there's some greater intelligence than us running, you know, like that we're working with, and that's available to all of us. And I've been having some really fun experiences with that, including one day I was looking for one of the experiments was to like set in my head that I was going to see blue butterflies, and you have like 48 hours to receive, you know, to see these things. And I was like, didn't really work for me that day. And I was a little bummed. I was like wanting to be like bowled over.
mm-hmm.
And the next day after the experiment was over, I was getting a mammogram, which can be a little scary for me, and for, I think a lot of women, can make it a little nerve wracking. And they took me into this one room and I looked around and I just started laughing. The room was filled. The whole wallpaper was butterflies, and a lot of them were blue butterflies. There was this border that had blue butterflies on it. It was like I was in blue butterfly like heaven, and it was at a perfect time when I needed to know that I was being watched over and or supported. It was like at the perfect time. And so if you're someone that wants to practice this, her book is amazing at creating these fun little experiments for that.
Yeah.
So I would highly recommend E Squared.
Yeah.
And and just, I think the relationship with knowing that you are held and supported by the divine, which is again at the core of my, the thing that I work with a lot of clients on, without it's not a religious thing or it's not anything like that. But when we feel held by life, we can we're more relaxed about what's unfolding in our life. And to me, that's one of the keys that people end up taking away from the work that we do together is like greater levels of being at ease in their life, being held by more than, by being connected to their own inner voice. And when you are connected to all of those things, there's just a greater experience and fulfillment of life. And so that's why I do the soul-centered work that I do.
That's so beautiful. Well, thank you so much. I'm so thrilled for this conversation. And I'm just so happy for the work that you're doing and that it's out there. And really, I have a big intention, and this types of conversations are normalized in a world, and that people have access to them.
Yeah. And thanks for being part of that and being a compatriot in that work.
Yep. You got it.
All right.